Welcome back to the channel. Ray Rice was a dominant Super Bowl champion until a single elevator video completely shattered his career. When the shocking footage leaked, former teammate Derek Mason admitted his view of the star changed instantly. The reaction was swift. Critics argued the league should have handed down a year-long suspension immediately. Now, NFL legends are speaking out about the chaos. What they are saying is brutal. Hit subscribe as you and I break down the night that ruined his legacy. To understand this fallout, why tough athletes were ready to turn on one of their own, we have to start at the beginning. It starts on February 15th, 2014. That night, Ray Rice and his fiancée, Jana Palmer, were arrested. Back then, Rice was an absolute star running back for the Baltimore Ravens. He had a Super Bowl ring, a massive contract, and at 27 years old, he was at the absolute peak of his game. Jana had known him since they were 15. They shared a daughter and were just weeks away from their wedding. That night, the couple was at the Revel Casino Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. After a long night of drinking, a massive argument broke out, and Rice ended up following Jana right into a hotel elevator. What happened inside that elevator is the entire story. When police filed the report, the details were blunt. Rice was charged with simple assault. He was accused of striking Jana with his hand and knocking her unconscious. But Jana was also charged in the incident. Both faced domestic violence charges and were released with a court summons. At first, the media treated this like a minor off-season issue. A star athlete and his partner had a dispute, and both got charged. Rice's attorney publicly hoped it would turn out to be a misunderstanding. Then, everything shifted. On February 19th, TMZ published surveillance footage from the casino. It did not show the actual hit, but it showed the aftermath. It showed the Ravens running back dragging his limp, unconscious fiancée straight out of the elevator. That clip shocked the public. The doors slide open, and Jana is sprawled on the floor, completely motionless. Rice casually grabs her and pulls her out. He dumps her in the hallway. Watching that footage made stomachs turn across the country. But here is the critical detail we have to remember. The full video of the actual punch had not leaked yet. Only the aftermath was public, leaving fans and analysts completely confused about how she got hurt. What really happened in there? While questions swirled, the justice system moved forward. On March 27, 2014, a grand jury indicted Rice for aggravated assault. He faced 3 to 5 years in prison and a fine of $15,000. This was a serious felony charge with heavy prison time on the table. Just one day later, a stunning twist confused everyone. Merely 6 weeks after the assault, Rice married Jana Palmer on March 28, 2014. The optics were bizarre. A star athlete gets indicted for knocking a woman unconscious, and the next day she marries him. Next, the legal battle shifted. Rice avoided a trial. On July 25, 2014, the NFL suspended him for just 2 games, while his defense team quietly secured a plea deal. His criminal charges were dropped after he agreed to court-supervised counseling. In the justice system, this is called pre-trial intervention. It is a program for first-time offenders. You complete anger management, and the charges vanish. No conviction, no jail time. By summer, it seemed over. Rice had his light suspension, a deal to stay out of jail, and a new wife. He was fully preparing to step back onto the field. That is where these league scandals usually end. The player serves a slap on the wrist, fans move on, and the game continues. But not this time. Let's look at the evidence together. On September 8, 2014, a second video surfaced, showing exactly what went down inside that elevator. That was the day everything shattered. The footage nobody could unsee went viral. For 7 long months, the public had only seen the aftermath in the hallway. Fans could only guess what led to it, but without visual proof, it was easy to ignore. In sports media, out of sight means out of mind. Then, the curtain fell. On the morning of September 8, 2014, TMZ released the full security camera footage from inside the elevator cabin. This was raw footage from a security camera mounted in the corner, capturing the entire brutal incident with cold, unblinking accuracy. There was no dramatic music or professional commentary. Just a professional athlete, his fiancée, and a tiny metal box with absolutely nowhere to run. The video itself is devastating in its simplicity. There is no warning. The reports walked viewers through the footage frame by frame, and the details were sickening. The sheer casualness of the violence was shocking. They were clearly arguing right before stepping inside. It was the calm before the storm. 2 people arguing, stepping into a tight space. As the heavy doors sealed behind them, they step inside, and Rice immediately slaps her. That first blow is a major warning sign, making viewers want to intervene immediately. But there is no stopping this tragedy. There is only the horrifying next second, and that specific moment ended a pro football career forever. She moves toward him, and he strikes her with massive force. It is a short, devastating punch thrown with elite athletic power. An elite athlete should never use that kind of force against anyone. Her head snaps back, her body going completely limp like a puppet with cut strings. She crumples, her head striking the metal handrail on the way down. She lies completely motionless. And the most chilling part is what happens next. There is absolutely no panic or call for medical help. He simply bends down, grabs her body, and starts dragging. The video confirmed every terrible rumor, but seeing the actual act was a completely different story. Reading about an assault is one thing. Watching it happen is another. Watching the exact second she goes unconscious is something the brain cannot easily process. It sticks with you forever. Make sure to like this video, because you and I both know the fallout was nuclear. Instantly, sports media stopped talking about football scores. Everyone was talking about that elevator. One media outlet captured the grim mood perfectly, reporting that the entire discussion centered on those horrific images of Ray Rice knocking his fiancée unconscious in an elevator. America was no longer debating a simple suspension. We were staring at a crime, and the rapid pace of what followed told us everything about how bad things really were. The Baltimore Ravens, who spent 7 months defending Ray Rice and praising his character, did not hesitate. Once the video went viral, the Ravens immediately released him, and the league suspended him indefinitely. The very same league office that handed down a week 2-game suspension back in July now wanted him banned. The same franchise that stood at podiums defending his character now wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. All of that changed in one single morning because of that tape. To understand its massive impact, we must examine what it stripped away before September 8th. People originally tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was mutual. Maybe she swung first and he reacted. Maybe it got blown out of proportion. The dragging video was awful, but it left room for doubt, which is a comfortable place to hide. The full video burned that hiding place to the ground. There was no more doubt. A man brutally struck a woman with a closed fist, knocking her unconscious. Once you saw that image, you could not unsee it. No press conference or public relations campaign could ever wash away what we all witnessed. It just kept looping on every sports channel in America, daring anyone to defend it. That reality is what finally pushed NFL legends to speak out. The league had treated this as a private family matter that the justice system would handle, but this tape made the crime public, undeniable, and deeply visceral. It took the abstract concept of domestic violence and gave it a devastating face, a sound, and a body hitting the elevator floor. After that, silence felt like complicity. The legendary gridiron warriors who built their reputations on toughness and standing tall when others fled were not going to stay silent. This footage did not just end Ray Rice's NFL career, it opened the floodgates. Surprisingly, the first to speak out were not media members, but players. That insulting 2-game suspension is what lit the fuse. Before we analyze these iconic players, make sure to subscribe, because their massive fury was not just aimed at Ray Rice. Much of that anger targeted the league executives in suits who handed down the penalty. Let us look back to July. The league office had to decide Rice's fate. They possessed the first dragging video and police reports. They knew a woman had been knocked completely unconscious. Yet NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell made his final decision: a mere 2-game suspension. That was it for Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice. He received a 2-game ban after knocking his fiancée unconscious at an Atlantic City casino. 2 games and a light fine. He was scheduled back on the field by week 3. To understand how insulting that punishment was, we have to compare it to other league violations. Here is where the fury truly started. The league handed down much longer suspensions for substance abuse than for domestic violence. One report laid out the harsh reality. A third positive test for marijuana resulted in a 4-game suspension, and a first positive Adderall test was also a 4-game ban. Let that sink in. Test positive for weed 3 times, sit 4 games. Knock your fiancé unconscious, sit only 2. That math was a total insult, and the public backlash was immediate. Social media exploded. Fans, analysts, and athletes agreed that the punishment did not fit the crime. It made the NFL look completely indifferent to domestic abuse. Goodell felt the immense pressure. Under heavy criticism, he he announced much tougher penalties for future domestic violence cases. He declared that a first offense would trigger a 6-game suspension, and a second would mean a lifetime ban. He even admitted, in writing, he got the Rice decision completely wrong. But apologizing does not erase the message already sent to the public. For months, the most powerful league in professional sports signaled that abusing a partner would only cost a player 2 weeks of football. That damage was done. Then, the second elevator tape leaked in September, completely destroying the league's public narrative. Commissioner Goodell suddenly claimed that nobody in the league office had seen that footage before the media leaked it. He insisted they had tried but failed to obtain the tape. The NFL claimed they contacted New Jersey law enforcement 4 times to request the elevator footage, but were turned away empty-handed every single time. That corporate excuse only made the public and the players even angrier. How could a multi-billion-dollar sports empire, armed with elite lawyers, fail to secure a video that a celebrity gossip website easily bought? Either they never really tried, or they actively avoided looking at the evidence. Neither excuse was acceptable. Now, we face 2 massive layers of absolute outrage stacked together. First, the horrific violence committed by Ray Rice. Second, the NFL's disastrous mishandling of the entire situation, from the Week 2 game suspension to the denials about seeing the tape. For the active players watching this train wreck unfold, that institutional failure was perhaps the biggest insult of all. These athletes sacrifice their bodies on the gridiron weekly. They face steep fines for wearing incorrect socks and get suspended instantly for simple substance violations, yet they watch league executives treat a brutal assault as a minor, 2-week issue. If you agree this was unacceptable, please like the video. That furious tension was the powder keg the elevator video dropped into. The anger had been building for months, and the footage was the match. Players immediately revolted against the league itself. They targeted the front office that spent 7 months downplaying a crime. When the locker rooms finally broke their silence, they shouted. In a league where active players rarely criticize peers publicly, and where the locker room code is fiercely protected as an absolute brotherhood, the sport's most respected icons shattered that silence. They pointed directly at an active peer and demanded immediate action, stating publicly that he belonged in prison, not on the field. That level of open mutiny rarely happens in professional football. To truly understand this historic shift, let us examine exactly who spoke out and why they simply could not remain silent. When legendary players refused to stay quiet, they changed the sport. Football is famously described as a tight fraternity by those who know the gridiron. Players traditionally shield their peers and keep issues private. When one goes down, the rest usually fall in line to stay quiet, mumble about due process, or say absolutely nothing. But the most powerful part of the Ray Rice backlash was that the silence finally shattered. We all know football is a tight fraternity, where NFL players rarely call out one of their own in public, especially on locker room discipline. But that unwritten rule died when the tape leaked. The first player to break rank was a defensive tackle from the Denver Broncos. His name was Terrence Knighton, but the league knew him as Pot Roast, a captain, a true locker room leader, the type of massive, fearless personality who voiced what everyone else was thinking. He did not hesitate. The second he saw the footage, Knighton went to Twitter and absolutely let loose. He posted that the video made him sick, but his next comment shook the entire country. That man should be thrown out of the league and locked in jail. Shame on those deciding his punishment. Jailed, not suspended, not fined, but locked up. Coming from an active player targeting another active peer, this was unprecedented. Knighton knew the weight of his words. He doubled down in the locker room, later, refusing to retreat an inch. He explained his stand to reporters. As players, we must speak up and stand up for what is right. I do not care who you are or how much money you make. There is no place for this. He even demanded the legal case be reopened for real prosecution, stating that if there was any legal way to punish this guy properly, it had to happen. Now, Knighton later admitted he had 3 younger brothers looking up to him. He was not chasing clout or cameras, he meant every word. And with that, Pot Roast cracked the door wide open. Others followed. But the most haunting voice belonged to a man who felt this tragedy in his very bones. Steelers defensive back William Gay. For Gay, this was no mere headline. It was the defining tragedy of his entire life. You see, when William was just a little boy, his mother, Carolyn, was shot and killed by his stepfather in Tallahassee, Florida. Gay was only 7 years old when he lost her to the exact brand of violence the public was now watching on repeat. So when he spoke, football was the furthest thing from his mind. He spoke of life and death. "We are talking about human life," he said. "I do not care about sports when it comes to domestic abuse. People lose their lives." He made it even sharper, stating his concern was not the game, but what happens out there in the real world. But this is where Gay separated himself from the crowd. He did not stop at anger. A man who lost his mother to this horror could have easily demanded Rice's head on a spike. Instead, he chose a much harder path. He spoke of rehabilitation, saying we must help Ray Rice rather than discarding him as evil. It was a breathtaking statement given Gay's history. He utterly condemned the act with every fiber of his being, yet insisted the perpetrator still deserved help. That delicate line between justice and mercy ran through this entire saga like cracked glass. Let us pivot now to the voice carrying the most weight in Baltimore, Ray Lewis. The legendary Ravens linebacker was the franchise's soul for 17 years. He had been a direct mentor to Rice, taking the young running back under his wing early on. But Lewis carried his own dark history, specifically a double homicide case from 2000 that shadowed his career. So when this scandal exploded, every lens focused on the icon. Lewis, now working as an analyst, was visibly torn. On one hand, he had witnessed domestic abuse firsthand as a child, watching his mother suffer. On the other hand, he loved Rice like a little brother. As commentators, we could hear that agonizing conflict in his televised statements. He admitted he was deeply disappointed and personally torn over a young man he had mentored so closely. He cared deeply, but the violence shocked him. What Lewis did next was draw a clear line in the sand, trying to separate this incident entirely from his own controversial past. Declaring it night and day, he fought to protect his legacy even while calling out his friend. It was a raw, uncomfortable media moment, but Lewis was not finished. During a subsequent broadcast defending the Baltimore front office, he made a comment that left us all baffled. He claimed some things can be covered up and some things cannot. It was a bizarre, telling slip on live television. It almost sounded like an admission that the league routinely buries scandals. Naturally, this triggered a massive wave of criticism from former players. They slammed the commissioner for his initially weak disciplinary action. If you appreciate these deep dives, make sure to subscribe to our channel. On Sunday pregame shows, legendary broadcasters hammered home the message. The NFL had utterly failed to show leadership on domestic violence. Meanwhile, inside the Ravens locker room, players grappled with the same heavy emotions William Gay had voiced. Teammates who loved Rice struggled to reconcile the friend they knew with the monster on tape. Most arrived at a very painful realization. They despised his actions, but could not bring themselves to hate the man. That was the complicated reality of this massive team backlash. While fiery critics like Knighton demanded jail time, most in the football community were not seeking total destruction. They wanted real accountability. They demanded the league wake up and address domestic abuse. If you support this coverage, hit that like button right now. Now let us analyze the fallout, the failed comeback, and the reality of the legal system. Did justice actually get served here? Let us look at the facts. Rice never spent a single second behind bars for what went down in that Atlantic City elevator. Instead, he utilized a pre-trial intervention program, completing court-mandated counseling and anger management classes to clear his name. Once finished, the legal system wiped the slate clean. His domestic violence charges were officially dismissed after he met all diversion requirements. That third-degree aggravated assault charge, which carried 3 to 5 years in state prison, evaporated. No conviction, no criminal record, no cell. So when Knighton tweeted that Rice should be thrown in jail, he was reacting to a system that had already decided the opposite. The courts treated Rice like any first-time offender in New Jersey. He got a diversion program instead of jail time. While the legends wanted prison, the legal system gave him probation in all but name. Now, let's ask the second question. Was he banned from football for good? This is complicated, and it is where the story takes a turn almost nobody remembers, because officially, the NFL's lifetime ban did not hold up. Rice appealed his indefinite suspension, and the former Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice became eligible to return to the National Football League after winning his appeal of that indefinite suspension. An arbitrator ruled the league had punished him twice for the same act and treated him unfairly. The players' union announced that the suspension was vacated immediately, meaning teams were allowed to sign Rice if they wished. So on paper, by late November of 2014, Ray Rice was free to play football again. The prison time the legends wanted never came. The lifetime ban they cheered got overturned. By every official measure, the system let Ray Rice off. But here is the massive twist that shows us what actually happened. Rice was cleared to play, but not one single franchise would sign him. He was free, healthy, still young at 27, a proven Super Bowl champion running back. Yet every front office in the league looked at that elevator tape and said no. He even pleaded for a shot on the league's own terms. He offered to donate his entire yearly salary to charity just for a roster spot. In 2016, he vowed to donate all of that season's salary to domestic violence charities if a team signed him. But he remained unsigned. Nobody called. Finally, the door he kept knocking on stayed closed for good. In 2018, Rice announced his football career was over. Let's sit with that for a second. The courts did not jail him. The arbitrator did not ban him. The system gave him every official path back. But the verdict that actually stuck was not handed down by a judge or a commissioner. It was handed down by the league itself, quietly, 32 teams at a time. In a strange way, that was the punishment the legends really wanted, all along. Not a courtroom sentence, but a reckoning, the sense that some things you do cannot be washed away by a counseling program or an arbitrator's ruling. Former cornerback William Gay said it best. This was about a life, not a game, and the league closed its doors. That is the real answer to our headline. Did NFL legends reveal why Ray Rice should be behind bars? Yes, guys like Terrence Knighton said exactly that, in plain words, the day the tape dropped. But the deeper truth is much messier than a jail cell. Rice never went to prison, and he was never officially banned. The world did not destroy him. Instead, the people who knew the game best, the players, coaches, and Hall of Famers, made it clear that there are lines you do not cross, and crossing them costs you something no court can ever measure. They could not put him in jail, nor force teams to shut him out. But they could refuse to look away, refuse to defend the indefensible, and refuse to pretend 2 games was enough. That collective stand, multiplying across the league, ended a career far more completely than any suspension ever could. What about Ray Rice himself? He has spent his years trying to face it, coaching high school kids and speaking to players about domestic violence. He stayed married to Janae, and the two have given joint interviews about the long, grueling work of repairing what he broke. In one of those sit-downs, he was asked point-blank if he deserved another chance in the league. His answer was brutally honest. No, I didn't deserve another chance. He even talked about how he views the man in that elevator. Now, all these years later, he refuses to defend him. He despises him. I hate that person. I hate him. That is a heavy thing to hear a man say about himself. And it does not erase what happened in that elevator. Nothing does. Janae was knocked unconscious by a man she loved. That reality will remain at the absolute center of this story forever. If you found this breakdown valuable, drop a like, subscribe, and click the screen for more.